Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. I'm so excited today to have back with me again the amazing multi-genre artist ReVerse Butcher. Welcome, darling.
Hello, thank you very much for having me again. I feel very spoiled.
Oh, look, today we're going to talk about an incredibly amazing thing. It's an art book, another art book, but it's your art book. It's a revised version, shall we say, of On the Road by Jack Kerouac. Talk about it. Why did you feel like you had to do it?
Okay, well, On the Road by Jack Kerouac is this book that basically defines misogynism in poetry. And it seems to be like the Bible for young male poets who are just like, I'm going to be a poet and that justifies all my bad behavior. I'm going to get drunk and that makes me a poet. Oh, so after having toured with some actual beat poets and realizing most of them have some pretty pig-like behavior, and just sort of like dealing with the balancing of the interpersonal relationships that you have with fellow performers, and the fact that you might like some of them, but they're like still shit behavior going on. So it's like, how do you recognize all that being a feminist? Um, the answer is you can't really. Eventually, you have to just like throw it all into the ocean and start again, which is what I did. Um,
Okay, okay, let me interrupt. I have not read On the Road by Jack Kerouac. I have not read it.
okay,
I never felt like reading it. I know it was a thing, but
yeah.
I personally haven't. So if I was to read it, what being a modern 21st century person, what impression would I have? Has it dated a lot?
Oh
Like, is it
yeah.
even worse than it was at the time?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's already worse because like the behavior was shit then, but it's just like we sort of like have better language to talk about why it was so shit, and there was a lot of erasure going on for female poets in the scene because basically all the women in this narrative are sort of like sexualized, they're othered, or their parents looking after their children, or their ways to get money out of, or like they're not really seen as artists in their own right. In fact, there was a book called Off the Road by Carolyn Cassidy, who wrote about her experiences being married to Neil Cassidy, who was like the dude who everybody was following his example. He was not as good a writer as Jack Kerouac or Galen Ginsberg or any of those people, but they sort of held him up as their mascot.
Okay, so you're saying that these writers were great writers. They still
No,
could write. They were still
no.
powerful. They were still.
They had their moments, but no, not really. In Jack Kerouac's case, he like On the Rod was written in like I think it was like 5 or 7 days or something. He just took Benzedrine the whole time and was awake. It was on one big long scroll of paper, of which I have seen in the flesh, by the way.
Oh wow.
I saw it in Texas once when I was on tour being a poet.
Oh wow.
But it wasn't edited really. It was just this sort of like verbal diarrhea about traveling across America. And I think what he managed to do at the time was talk about the feelings of displacement, and the feelings of sort of like um, changes in politics and culture, specific to masculinity, and freedom, and sort of like breaking away from the 50s and all that kind of stuff that people found very freeing at the time, but there was just no place for women in that narrative at all unless they were having babies, having sex with you, or making a sandwich.
Yeah, look, that's really awesome that you can put it into its proper context actually, because what you're not doing is you're not just destroying the whole beat movement. It was probably very necessary for men who felt like that at the time, but all you're saying is there was no place for women. And so maybe the 21st century is the time that we're going to stand up and go, "Hey, we can do it
Mm.
too."
Well, there
So,
were plenty of women who were doing what the men were doing. They just weren't getting the same airtime, and they were also sort of only ever remembered in footnotes. They weren't ever seen as the greats, which is a shame because most of the time they not only eclipsed the men they were with, but they also looked after the men who were
yeah.
getting all of these accolades. So,
Yeah. But
anyway.
it takes a few generations for women to, whether they're doing it or not, for women to feel self-confident enough to just do it and not wait for the approval of men, because women in that time did grow
Mm,
up without any autonomy over their lives. So,
that's for
um,
sure.
so I guess, yeah, well, let's just keep it in the context that it
Yeah.
was, but you used the word erasure, and
Yes.
I want to talk to you about the technique you use in your book, and it's called
Yes.
erasure poetry, isn't it? So
Yes.
let's talk about that.
Okay, so erasure poetry is where, like, if you can see on the screen below my face, you can see how certain words remain because you've painted over or you've blacked out all of the other sections of words, and it's like making a new thing out of context. I've also used cut-up poetry in here, which was actually a beat poetry technique, sort of popularized by Brian Geisen and William Burroughs, both of them huge misogynists. I mean, Burroughs like actually shot his wife in the head, and got away with it in the end. Brian Geisen, I was devastated to hear to read how much he really was an epic misogynist. There was this long book of interviews where he was talking to one of my other favorite musicians, and for like a book, and I was just like, by like halfway through, I was just like, he's not gonna learn. Is he? He's never gonna. Anyway, erasure poetry, I love it. It's a way of taking something that did exist and reinventing it entirely. It is a new work altogether. You change the context, you change everything about it by removing all those other things. You allow the text to speak for itself. It's a hybrid of different kinds of techniques in terms of the cut up and the erasure in this one. But yeah, erasure poetry, I love it. It's like also known as blackout
And
poetry.
is there anyone else who did it? I mean, you didn't invent it,
No,
right? But
no, no.
it's not that common a thing to do. Would you say that's right?
Um, in certain artists' books, there are a lot of erasure people. I suppose one of the people who's most famous for doing a work of epic proportions on an erasure poetry novel is A Humament by Tom Phillips, and he's a massive influence of mine. Hopefully, less of a misogynist I haven't read because it would break my heart. Which was the no, I don't think he is. I think he seems fine. But yeah, he was a painter, and he took watercolors mostly and acrylics and whatnot, and reimagined a textbook called A Human Document and turned it into something called A Humament. So yeah.
Mm. Oh, fantastic. So, are you prepared to show a little bit of your original book before we talk about the limited edition one that you've
For
produced?
sure, absolutely. I'm just gonna put
Please
on my
do.
little white gloves because this book
Me too.
is highly precious, and it was
Yeah.
made with like glue and paint and all sorts of things. It was rebound because the original copy of it, the seams split because when you paint things, paper swells, and so it's been fully repackaged, reimagined, re-everythinged. So that's the actual
Mm.
size of it. If
Oh
you
my
want to put it to
God,
my
it's so
head.
amazing.
And when you open it, you can sort of see, I feel like, kindergarten, when you're doing story time. You can see that there's pages. I'm going to hold that up close to the camera. That there is a portrait of my partner's daughter, Savannah. And she is very spirited. We love her. Um, But yes, let me see. What else have we got? You've got things like this one here.
So that is Jack Kerouac's On the Road, which you
Yes,
have painted over every single page, and each page has a different thing on it, a different piece of new poetry coming out of it. You can
correct.
spend absolutely weeks, months, years inside of this book. This is absolutely unbelievable. And
Mm-hmm.
I revisit my copy. I was lucky enough to buy this in an auction. But this is extremely limited. I mean, look at this. This is original hand painting, drawing, collaging on every single page, plus this erasure poetry technique coming out of it. It's unbelievable.
This image here is also sort of like an important part of the book. I wanted to use this obliteration of the sort of patriarchy effect as a visual metaphor for inserting women as well. So that blue face that you saw was a Melbourne-based poet named Carrie Loffrey, who is amazing. She has written some brilliant things, and I think that her work is really underrepresented. So of course, she's a friend of mine. I wanted to put her into my remembrances and my celebration of female poets. So I put that portrait of her in there, and there's many of them through the book that are like that are, basically not cis men that are represented.
Yeah. So I, as you know, I like to put forward underrepresented people. But I must say that in my collection of composers, there aren't as many females as there are males. And I was interviewed once for a documentary, and I really do encourage all the women out there. Don't act like people are stopping you, because then you'll victimize yourself and then people will be able to stop you. You've just got to go forward, just go around, go behind, just bypass the people who you perceive to be stopping you. I think it's time now that we actually reclaim the power that we do naturally have. And often I find that the only times I've been stopped by any kind of male figure is that they're afraid. They're not afraid of me taking over. They're just afraid that I'm so bloody outspoken, and they don't know what's going to happen because there's no framework for them to deal with you. They're not allowed to punch you. So it's kind of a difficult situation for them. So I think we also have to come to the party and say, well, what's a new way we can all talk to each other about this? Because the whole gender thing is, let's just transcend it, like the spirit of the 60s was total transcendence, and it just kind of didn't quite make it. So let's just try and create a new language.
I think the 1960s certainly had some lofty ideas, free love, all that stuff, which is, lovely. But a lot of the women were then sort of trapped into scenarios where they had a lot of babies and not a lot of assistance. So I'm hesitant to sort of downplay the idea that there aren't or weren't as many male gatekeepers. Because you're right. We do have to be proactive and supporting and supportive to other women and stuff. But I have to acknowledge that as a young queer woman who toured in her 20s with a lot of men, like I'm telling you, like this, you've had a career in it too.
Yeah.
There are male gatekeepers, and we're not gonna call them all out by name or whatever. But that's what this book was to me. It wasn't calling people out by name. It was calling a culture out. It was saying, this is not acceptable. We are here, and we have always been here. We will always be here, and this is our voices. This is my contribution. Yeah. So, but you're right. We do have to find new ways of having the conversation.
Yeah, especially post-COVID, even before COVID hit, we were able to make anything we wanted as long as we had the money. So as long as the money comes from somewhere, even if you're just working at KFC, you can publish, a photo book of your special kid drawings. You can do any of that now without anyone's permission, as long as you have just a little bit of money. So we are fortunate now. Now let's have a look at, if you don't mind, I'm going to open my copy of On the Road.
Go ahead.
And this is the way you decided to do it, which is just really amazing because it solved a few problems, didn't it, of making facsimiles of the originals. So you've done, on each page, there's an opening of your original book. So
this was quite difficult to duplicate because I had to do it as double page spreads. I couldn't do it page by page. And because it's sort of like an awkward size, in order to sort of fit the photo book sort of options, I had to sort of work out the best way to do it. And having a sort of like a wide angle of the two pages together ended up working quite well. So
can you hold up this page in your original book?
Yeah, I can. I totally can.
It's quite close to the beginning.
It is.
I just want to see. I want everyone to see what. So that's like taken from a magazine, is it?
Yeah. So there's an image there taken from a magazine, and then it's layered on several other different images. And then there's basically underneath that, I've cut out certain sections, so you can see how that's.
And can
developed.
I read?
Yes. Go ahead. Read it.
Here is Jack Kerouac's words peering out through this hilarious collage. Burn, burn, burn. The first thing you know, kill anybody wearing a real Western business suit. And then here, why were these men great?
And why were these men great?
Every page is a joy.
Okay. Yeah, no, so Why Were These Men Great was from another magazine. So like that, and that's what you do with cut up theory, is you cut up things, you make them random, and you put them back together and see what you're left with, and
yeah. I mean, this was so inspiring, and I got to see you actually make this, because around the time I first met you were working on this at that Footscray pub that you were going to perform. You and Carly were performing, and so was I. and I saw you do it. And gosh, I was still a bit scared of you then. I don't know if anyone's watched our first interview, but yeah, I was really quite frightened of Reverse Butcher when I first met her. And but she's actually really lovely and very worth supporting, everybody. She does have some strong opinions about the poor, men in the world, but no, let's
Guilty
have
as
the
charged.
conversation.
Let's have the conversation. Let's all be better. Let's all be better.
So this is available, but it is so incredibly rare. How many copies of this did you get done?
I think it was 25. Let me just
Something
check.
like
It was
25
or 30. It was 30. Yeah, 30. I think the first 5 are sort of in my own collection in terms of they're reserved for family and folio stuff. So there's really only 25 in circulation.
Yeah, so it really, the only way you can see this is if you, well, you can't. Oh, you can
You
actually
can. There's
also
an ebook
purchase
version.
it.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So get in touch with you through your website, reversebutcher.com.
Yep, and you can buy
and
an ebook.
that'll be linked. Yeah, and so I'm not going to end with this because it wouldn't be right. But after I saw you doing this, I felt like there was a real atmosphere around you when you were creating it. And also my son used to draw a lot, and it was the only time that he was settled. Just the fine line draw, because he also did fine line drawing, as you know. He didn't use much color. He just would get a gray lead or a black thin pen, and the atmosphere surrounding him was very, very chill, very focused. And I thought, oh wow, I want to feel that, because I'm a little bit crazy and I'm always on the go. And so I got one of his kids' book, Zach Power.
Yeah.
And I decided to do my own version of erasure poetry and artwork.
Oh my gosh. No, I love it. I love it. Everybody can do this. Everybody can do this. And that's the beauty.
You were so supportive of me when I told you I was doing it, and it's so therapeutic. And so the reason I'm saying it is for people out there who think, oh, I'm not artistic, I'm not this, I'm not that. We've all got something. We can all just get a pen and put it on the paper and see what comes out and see what kind of zone you get into. Try copying a drawing. Just go for it. I mean, you weren't always an artist, is that correct?
Certainly not. No, I started out as a writer and as a performer. I didn't really have very much, I guess, self-esteem in terms of my art, visual art, for until I was like in my 30s. I always made collages. That was something I always did. But in terms of drawing and illustration and painting, which I do now, as along with VR art as my main jam. Like, I still obviously write poetry and stuff, but like my main focus is actually sort of a blending of all of those things together. I didn't go to art school. Nobody ever taught me how to do this. I didn't go to an art class. I had some mentors along the way, some really amazing women who showed me, books that I would never have found otherwise. And, I went to the libraries and read a lot, but nobody ever taught me how to do this. And that's the beauty of something like this. It's like you can literally change history with a Sharpie and a paintbrush. Take something that pisses you off and make it right. It is a beautifully powerful thing to do. And I found too, like, it took me 4 full years to finish this book. And I started this book when I felt I'd hit a wall with my writing and performing. I felt like, I don't know if it, I hope you've never experienced this, Sarah, but like I got to a point where the idea of performing made me feel really empty and depressed. Like I just wasn't being heard. There was no way to rise above the chatter and the aggravation and the feeling of being excluded or only being conditionally included. So I started to think to myself, there has to be something else, and I don't know what it is yet. So I'm going to start with this book that is the reason this exists, and I'm going to fix it. And that's what I did. I fixed it page by page, and along those 4 years, I not only taught myself how to draw, but I also met you, and I met a whole bunch of other people along the way who have all proved as these little lighthouses of inspiration that have driven me in other directions that I probably would never have found. I left like over 2,500 postcards with these printed on here in various libraries, and sent some to other friends in other cities and places that also put them in libraries for people to find. I never really expected to hear back from anybody, but then I started to hear back from people. So some of the libraries that I couldn't sell my work to as a performer, or I couldn't get grants from them, I couldn't get them to notice my work, they were suddenly absorbing these works into their permanent collections without me applying. And it was this idea, it's like, well, okay, I can't be represented in these libraries because patriarchy, but how easy is it for me to actually physically just go there and put it in the book? Not that hard, actually. Not that hard. So again, that's what I
But
did.
it's not illegal, is it?
No, I know it's. Well, I don't. I hope not, but I don't think so. I mean, I guess they could probably get you for trespassing or littering, but it would depend on what is on the postcard. Do you know what I mean? Like nothing on these postcards was threatening or explicit or whatever. They were just these weird little missives, and they were left in places for people that I knew loved books, because I didn't want to at that stage, and at that stage I actually wasn't really on social media very much at all. So the idea was to reach other people like me who were obsessed with books. So I left them in the books themselves, in other people's collections. But yeah, now I'm in permanent collections that I would never have probably have been considered for.
What a fun thing to do. Like, what an absolutely extraordinary thing to do. Now, can you imagine finding a little postcardy gem inside a book that's unrelated to the postcard? Fantastic. So the moral here is, if there's a moral, perseverance and practice. And no matter how talented you are, if you want to make a great go of it, make a living out of it, which you do, then keep doing it, keep trying, go for it, be creative, be inventive as well, and be entrepreneurial. It's not a great word, but just be independent of waiting for others to give you permission to do it. And I'm not giving you this advice because you already do that. So you're a really great example of a sort of modern day artist, rather than the one suffering and a drug addict in a ditch, you know. So you're the modern way.
I think that, if they're not going to let you in the front door, there's often a window, a back door. You go under the door, go blow the house up, do whatever it is. Don't actually blow the house up. I'm a passive path. That is a metaphor, visual metaphor only. Don't blow anything up. But what I mean is just get in there, sneak in, infiltrate, and leave a calling card, because they're looking for you, and you will find your people. You will find them.
Absolutely. And speaking of calling card, everything you want to know about Reverse Butcher is on her website, reversebutcher.com. Go to this website now.
Directly below
there. Wonderland. You can buy anything. You can buy this for many hundreds of dollars, or you can buy the digital version, or you can ask her. Or you can ask her for a commission. You can. This is a painting you did in response to a piece of music called Dash by an American composer, Jennifer Higdon. I mean, This is just extraordinary. If you give Reverse Butcher a piece of music and a task, she will do it. And she painted my violin. And the first interview we did together, this is not a violin, it's a doorway. That's the iBook for that, available on Apple.
Oh no, I think Sarah's frozen. Oh wait, no, there she is. She's frozen for a minute. You froze for a minute. Sorry. We're in Australia where the internet is bollocks. So you might just have to repeat that last little bit. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Reversebutcher.com is what I was saying. Everything about you is on there. Yes. Everything you can do is on there. Yes. Thank you so much for talking to me today.
Thank you.
I love what you do.
And I love what you do. So thank you very much. Mwah. Okay. Bye, everybody.
Okay. Bye.